Broadcasting from our subterranean studios in beautiful Paradise Valley, Pennsylvania, it's Business and Brain Tumor Talk, a unique show with topics to educate, inspire, and implement. Without further ado, here's your host, Rick Franzo.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Amanda. We're here in our subterranean studios, and today our guest on Business and Brain Tumor Talk, this is the Brain Tumor Talk part of the show, not the business part, but we have Brenda Kleinsasser from Bismarck, North Dakota with us today. Brenda, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. Thank you. This has been a long time coming. We had connectivity issues and things like that happening. So, finally we got here. So the background that I have, Brenda was an avid listener of a radio show that I had for about 4.5 years. This is the background is the studio where I broadcast from at East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania here in the beautiful Pocono Mountains. And so that's a special shout out for Brenda. Brenda is not only a brain tumor survivor, she is also a RA, so rheumatoid arthritis survivor. And she has many, many talents, which we're going to talk about. But first off, Brenda, tell us about your background. So you're from North Dakota?
Yes, I've lived in North Dakota all of my life. I grew up in a small town about 100 miles from here, Bowden. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. I left in 1978, went off to college, and I've lived here ever since. So in next month, it will be 46 years that I have lived here in Bismarck. So,
Wow.
yep.
And how big of a city is Bismarck? I mean, it's on the map. So, I mean, it's
It's over 50,000. I really don't know exactly. It's not as big as Fargo. That is the biggest one. I don't know exactly what the population is, but it is well over 50,000. So
and what do you do as a job?
I work at a medical clinic. I am a document imaging representative. I've been doing that for the past 6 months. New position that started in January. And I have been employed at the clinic there for 36 years. I started my 37th year on June 2nd. So,
Fantastic. That's great. You are a survivor, you're a poet, you're a writer. Um, we have similar interests in music. So these are all things that we're going to get to. But tell us about your brain tumor journey so far.
okay. Well, it started in 2008. Actually, part of the beginning of it, I had a prior head injury, but I didn't do anything about it. And as I said before, I would not recommend that. I should have had it checked out. Um, but I was having extreme head pain. And, you know when something's wrong with your body. But I went to my primary care physician and I asked for a CT because working at a clinic, I know what to ask for. And he said, um, not once, but twice, told his nurse that if we find nothing, we are done. And thought, "You're gonna find something." I mean, I had no idea it was going to be a brain tumor, but I did have the CT, and, they found a mass or a lesion, never referred to it as, a brain tumor, which was very confusing to me. But anyway, they decided that now we have to do an MRI. So I thought, "I'm not crazy. There is something going on." So we attempted to do the MRI the same week. Unfortunately, I found out that I truly was claustrophobic. So I only lasted about 6 or 7 minutes. The noise didn't bother me. It was the enclosure. I just don't like being in, enclosed places. So they scheduled it for the next week and got the results that evening that it was a meningioma the size of a walnut and that it could be watched. And I thought, I want this thing out. but it was going to be at least another week before I was going to be able to see a neurologist. And I had my mom with me. She was my care partner throughout all of this, the beginning of my journey. And we went there, and it just did not look good. I mean, they thought, well, it's been there for, 20 years. They grow slowly. We can watch it. And he walked out of the room, and I looked at mom and I said, no, this doesn't look good. Pretty soon, somebody walks in and says, well, would you like to see a neurosurgeon today? He's down the hall. Well, it's like I couldn't have jumped out of my chair any faster. So we walked over there. And, he looked at the, MRI with me, explained it. It was actually kind of weird because it looked like a comet to me because it had a tail attached. And as you know, meningiomas, that is the striking characteristic is that it has a tail. So, it looked like that, so he showed me contrast, non-contrast, and he we were talking, and he mentioned something to me that just was so striking. He said, "This is headed toward your motor skills." And he said, "Would you like to have this removed?" And I said, "Yes." And, he said, "Well, let me check my schedule." This was Thursday, September, 4th. He could do it on September 8th, which would be 4 days later. Not a lot of time to get prepared. And so I think we were in shock. I think we were in shock because I went back to my boss at the time and I told him that this was gonna be taking place on Monday, and he told me later, he said, "You sounded like you were just gonna go to the dentist. You were so calm." And I said, "I was in shock." We both were. I mean, we've never been through anything like this. And so the next day, Friday, I talked to the nurse. We were doing pre-registering and everything, and she mentioned craniotomy. And I was a little naive at this point yet. I said, "You mean you're gonna have to drill my head open?" And she said, "Well, how did you think we're gonna get this out?" So it was starting to set in that, this is some serious stuff. And so I was kind of going around the clinic and I was talking to people and, telling them about it. And it was almost like it wasn't even real that it was happening, and it's going to be Monday. So, that weekend, mom just tried to have me do things to keep my mind off of it as much as we could. We went shopping on Sunday afternoon, found some bargains. And
Nice.
it wasn't J.C. Penney though, it was Kohl's. But anyway, that evening we had a very serious talk. And you know how moms are. They're a mom to the end. And she said, "I just want you to be ready." And I never even thought that I wouldn't make it through. That didn't even really cross my mind.
Uh,
So we had our talk, and I actually went home that night and spent the night alone and did some reading. And the next morning I got up. We had to be there at 6 a.m. and um, got ready. Of course, the hardest part for me was getting the IV. And it was kind of interesting because my mom never had a problem with IVs. And they asked her, they said, "Well, did you grow up on a farm?" And she did. So, they did all that heavy lifting in that. And so,
sure.
yeah. So, you know, I don't have good luck with that. But anyway, so it got me ready. And of course, the anesthesiologist comes in and, they tell all the doom and gloom. You could have a seizure, you could have a stroke, you could die, and um, starting to set in now, you know. But it was crazy, Rick, because as I was getting wheeled to the OR, this song kept playing in my head. Somebody's knocking, from,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't think of her name right now, but, anyway, Terry Gibbs. Anyway,
Terry Gibbs.
yeah. Anyway, on the way to the OR, my mom leans over and kisses me on the cheek. And I'm like going, whoa, this is serious. She's being a mom. Unfortunately, I did lose her in 2011.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we went off to the OR and, everybody's so nice in there. They're all introducing themselves and I'm never going to remember their names or anything. And he started,
So you weren't awake when you went to the OR because I wasn't. I was just knocked out before I got in there, so I didn't see anybody. I
no,
saw the anesthesiologist and that was it. No
no,
kidding.
I actually
So how
got
long was your surgery?
90 minutes. But what I was gonna say
Okay.
before,
And
we did the surgery, again, they started to put that oxygen thing over my face, and I just pushed it away. I was feeling that claustrophobic again, and he said, "Oh, that's okay. You can just breathe from, the edge of it." And he put his hand on my shoulder. I remember this so distinctly, and he says, "We're gonna take good care of you." And that's the last thing I remember until I woke up.
they put the mask fully over your face then.
Yeah, obviously when I was out, yes.
So you came out of surgery and you were going through the recovery and you started to connect with other brain tumor survivors and you started to do some writing. So you started to do some poetry and things like that. And you have a companion there that was, the one that is, uh, yeah, there's Trevor right there, right? So the first time that we connected was, oh my gosh, in 2009. And it was on Facebook in the brain tumor support group and you had Trevor sitting there, and I'm like, "Oh, you got such a nice dog." He poses and he sits there so nicely, and I didn't know that he was a stuffed dog. He's not real, but I went for the longest time thinking that he was real, and that wasn't my brain injury. He is very very real looking. So Trevor does a lot of the ghostwriting for you, and so. Talk about that if you wouldn't mind, and then your journey with rheumatoid arthritis, and some of the things that you've done because you said that you weren't really much of a writer before all this happened, right?
I was not.
And now that's you do that all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, the blood.
Yeah, and it's funny how it brings out like talents that we didn't know. So the brain is so amazing. So if you don't mind, talk to our listeners about all the different things that you can do now with writing and poetry and things like that.
Okay. Well, the blog started in 2009, which was almost a year from the time that I had the brain tumor removed. I actually started in earnest journaling 6 months after my craniotomy, and I just started my 16th journal. And my 16th anniversary is coming up on, September 8th, so I think that's pretty, incredible that it's been that much.
It is.
Yeah. So, the blog started, like I said, in 2009, and, it was called Brenda's Brainstorm at first, an inspiration out of the blue, which actually was, in sync with my rheumatoid arthritis because the colors for arthritis and rheumatoid is purple and blue. As you see, that's what I'm wearing today. I'm always spreading awareness however I can. I have a unique way of doing it. So anyway,
You do. Look at gray. The gray?
yep,
I'm wearing
I'm
gray.
wearing gray. Yep. And so am I, my hair.
Mine too.
So anyway, the blog started, and then in 2011, when my mom was going through her journey in the nursing home, I added Trevor. I wanted it to be spiced up a little bit, so we called it Trevor's Tales, Trevor the Telltale Dog. And then we just went with Brenda and Trevor because everybody knows who Trevor is, you know. Well,
True enough.
yeah. So
True enough.
yeah. So yes, we had it as if he was telling the tales, and you know, it was well received by, a lot of people. And it's crazy now because I actually a couple years ago I kind of didn't write that much in Brenda's Brainstorm anymore. I started a new blog, but it's crazy. People are reading it from all over the world still. And I started Bloom with Brenda in 2022.
Uh-huh.
Um, I wanted that in memory of my mom because she loved gardening. And I never could understand how could you enjoy working in the dirt and doing all of that stuff? But I get it because that's how I feel about my writing, cultivating, and I call it planting blog posts. That's how I approach it every time. And I'm really enjoying it. And we have Trevor
We enjoy reading it.
Thank you.
We enjoy reading it for sure. Definitely. So talk about rheumatoid arthritis because you also deal with that as well.
Yes, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, or RA, in May of 1991. I was only 3 years full time into my job, and thinking, oh my goodness. I mean, I've seen all the people in wheelchairs and being crippled, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm just not going to be working very much longer. And then, especially when I went to my rheumatologist after a few visits after, and he said, well, you should quit your job and have your husband take care of you. And I thought, I am the sole breadwinner. And I just looked at him and I said, I will work until I can no longer work. And ideally, 10 years is as long as most people do work statistically. But I've defied those odds. And I do that in a lot of things. I'm a fighter. You'll find that out very, very, very soon after you meet me or have a chance to get to know me. I, you know, I just decided that, I'm bigger than this disease. And back then, there was no internet, there was no support groups. Um, well, there was a local one. I went to it, but I would come back and I would feel worse after the group because I just saw this is what I'm going to be. You know, I was having a hard time dealing with it and accepting it. But I would go to the library and try to, check out VHS tapes. We're dating ourselves here, but trying to figure out how you do things, getting around in the apartment and uh, be adaptable to it and all. It took a long time, actually 21 years it took to finally come to an acceptance of it. I mean, that's a long time. But I connected with someone on Facebook and I really liked what they were doing. And I thought, if they can live like that, so can I. You know, so that's really how my first poem came to light and it got published. So, I mean, right there, it's like, oh. And mom wrote poetry, and I never knew this until the day of her funeral. Somebody said, well, did you run into any of her writings? And I said, no. I said, I didn't even know she wrote poetry, but I could only imagine that it was beautiful because her letters that she would draft to me, even in college, I mean, she had a way of writing. So, yeah. So anyway, with the rheumatoid arthritis, there was this project in 2012 about RA in the workplace. And, I'm shy by nature. I don't just jump at things. And I thought a few days and I contacted them and they said, well, we don't know exactly what your part will be in this, but whatever it is, you'll be helping somebody. Well, Rick, this turned out more than I could have imagined. They ended up flying out here to Bismarck to work with me. I ended up doing an interview with NBC North Dakota News right here in my apartment. I did an interview with the Bismarck Tribune. I had several meetings. I met with my staff members of our senators and congressmen. And well, that was only the tip of it. The next year, I ended up testifying at the state capitol all about biologics. I have been on a biologic for, well, I've lived with rheumatoid arthritis for 33 years, and I've been on one for 23. It was about 10 years into living with RA. I finally found a class of drug for me. It was not easy. My first 10 years, I say sometimes was pure hell because I was just in so much pain. And, some days you just think, "Oh, how are you going to do this?" And there really was nobody around to talk to because, like I said, there were no support groups. So, the way, yeah, so that's how that was. So,
So you did a lot of writing based on your brain tumor, based on your rheumatoid arthritis, helping people. You also wrote about your mom. You've got the new blog that you have, Brenda's Blooms.
Bloom with Brenda.
Bloom with Brenda. I always mess it up, and I read it every month, and I always mess it up. So, and it really is. It's quite entertaining and quite moving a lot of times. So, those are things that you've done. So you actually haven't settled for what happened to you. You've taken some control and helped others, and that's really a great thing. It's always great to pay it forward. And the one thing I want to talk about, you have an incredible story and an incredible journey, and you've done so much. But music is important to you, and I know that it's important to me as well. So we share a lot of the same taste in music, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Definitely. Who are your favorite artists?
Well, Elton John. I got,
John.
yeah. I like Neil Sedaka. I especially enjoy classic rock. I love going to concerts and rocking it out.
So what concerts have you seen in the last I'm going to say the last 10 years because over COVID there wasn't very many. So I know that you would go to a lot of shows. So who have you seen? I know you've seen Elton John.
Yes, I've seen Boston. I saw Eddie Money, uh,
Okay.
Styx, Don Felder, who used to be with the Eagles,
Yeah.
REO Speedwagon. Yeah. Um, might be missing a few. I go to Hairball. I don't know if you're they put on shows where they do classic rock and they usually come twice a year and they sound just like the original. I mean, they are so good. So
Are they a tribute band?
yes, I would consider them that. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And what do they play? Just like all classic
Well,
rock?
they do like Twisted Sister and Queen, and they did Kiss, because they would even they dress up in the costumes and everything. I mean, they put on a really good show. And it's not even $30. It's like 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's awesome. It's always packed. It's a fun thing to do.
Nice. That sounds good. Let's talk about the weather in Bismarck because North Dakota is can be a challenging place to live. So is it snowing now? I mean, right
No,
now it's
no,
July 29th of 2024. No, it's not.
no, no, but we're possibly going to have a thunderstorm tonight. So it's 88 right now. So yeah.
Okay, so that I kid. But when do you usually see your first snowfall in North Dakota in Bismarck?
It depends. I mean, it can be as early as September. Yeah, like the end of September. But a couple of years ago, we had the winter we thought would never end. You know, I've had very few days where I was off of work because of a snowstorm. And we had like 4 or 5 days where we couldn't come in because, well, for one thing, we can't get out of your yard or whatever. You can't go to work. So,
Yeah. I bring that up because today on the news, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation is in winter mode, right? So they're looking for drivers, snowplow drivers, and things like that. Everybody's like, "You're talking about like snow in July? Are you kidding?" It's like 90 degrees, a million% humidity here. Everybody's got air conditioners on and everything else. And we've had 3 heat waves already, which is quite unusual for the Poconos. But my goodness, I mean, winter is right around the corner. So everything, time just keeps on moving. As we kind of wrap it up, what are some things that you'd like to go and let our listeners know about when they are experiencing tough times? How do they deal with it? What are some strategies
the
that you
one
use?
thing that I recommend highly is journaling. Um, that's very healing, and writing for me is a healing balm.
How about music? Music is healing too,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, absolutely. Music is very healing. You know, they say that sometimes you can't express how you feel, but you can find a song that will do it for you.
Good point. Good point. And how can people access your blog?
Well, it's brendasbrainstorm.blogspot.com, and they should be able to find it. Brenda's Brainstorm, if you just Google Brenda's Brainstorm, it'll come right up. Bloom with Brenda does not. I don't think because it's not as established yet. So, yeah,
Very good. And we're going to include that in all of the links that we have. Everybody, Brenda Kleinsasser, right?
correct.
Kleinsasser?
Yes,
Did I say it right?
you did.
Oh, look at that. You go, Rick. From Bismarck, North Dakota, brain tumor survivor, rheumatoid arthritis survivor, blogger, writer, poet, music lover, and just all around great person. And I've been very, very privileged to know you for the past 15 years. And I thank you so much for being our guest today, Brenda. We really appreciate everything that you do for so many people. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And this has been Business and Brain Tumor Talk. I'm your host, Rick Franzo, and we'll see you next time.